Hi guys, hope you're doing good and you are safe during this lockdown. So before just starting, let's just confirm, am I audible to everyone? You can just post yes or no in the comments. Am I audible? Oh, okay, great. Thanks for responding. So let's just start the webinar quickly, and then this webinar is quite interesting one, wherein you will understand what exactly blockchain is, what are the types of nodes that we have, and you'll also get to understand about which node should you actually choose if you're setting up any node on any blockchain network. And then we'll quickly understand about how can we as a student, while building applications, how can we set up our own blockchain node and do the tests there, run applications, and interact with the application that we have built with this particular blockchain. So this is something. Voice quality is not good. I think there might be some internet issues. I'll try to be quite slow so that you understand it. And yep, so let's just start it quickly, and then let's take things ahead. So this webinar would be roughly around 45 minutes to 1 hour of duration. And then I'll be giving you time in between, like after every 3 to 4 slides for you to ask questions. And during that time, you can ask as many questions as you want, and I'll be coming to the comments section then and would be answering your questions. And this particular webinar is a part of a series of webinars that we do. And this webinar is being organized by Zubi as an initiative of Z.Talks and is sponsored by Zenfin Hybrid Blockchain. So I'll just share my screen. Yeah, invisible now. Yeah, I think it. Just one second. So meanwhile, guys, stay excited. This particular webinar comes up with a certificate. So you'll be getting a certificate issued after this particular webinar, and I'll be also informing you about the steps to claim your certificate. So just stay tuned. Meanwhile, I'll share my screen. Yeah. Okay, great. So the screen is now visible. Great. Okay. So yeah, let's just quickly start things. Okay. So So let's just learn to understand how to set up a blockchain node. So hi guys, I'm Punit Agarwal, I'm founder at Zubi. Uh, I have been working on the blockchain space for around 3 years now, and like I have worked for building up an entire blockchain network. I have presented a couple of proof of concepts as part of student startup exchange program to the government of Rajasthan. It was a proof of concept on blockchain and healthcare, which was liked by them, and then I was sent to Silicon Valley for around 15 days to understand more about the global startup ecosystem and how we can address the gaps in the space and how we can build up an actual ecosystem for Indians. I've also had a background in artificial intelligence and multimedia projects. I've done an internship at National Lan University in Taiwan. So since my 3 years of journey into blockchain, I've taught more than 5,000 plus students, researchers, academicians, corporates in the field of blockchain. And I have also published a couple of research papers in the field of blockchain and healthcare. And yep, this is my journey overall in blockchain, asking about my building applications skills and all. So I have built a multi-signature wallet. I have, as I mentioned earlier, I have helped a company set up their entire network. So I can say that my forte is in Ethereum architecture, or blockchain architecture, wherein defining how the network should actually work, what the consensus mechanism is. Like, the consensus the word might be a bounce off for you as of now, but soon we'll understand what exactly it is. And basically understanding on what does it take to set up an entire blockchain. So I can say this is my forte, and building applications is like just using the Android and creating applications on top of Android. So I was working on building the Android. You can say it in that way. So yep. So let's just start with what the webinar says. And before the webinar starts, I think most of you are quite new to this technology, quite new to blockchain. So I'll just give you a brief of exactly what blockchain is. So blockchain can be summarized in just 3 words. It's not rocket science. It's nothing, too advanced or anything. It's just immutable distributed ledger. Just these 3 words. I'll repeat: immutable distributed ledger. Let's understand what exactly this is. So let's take it backwards. Ledger. What is ledger? Ledger is something that we all know. Ledger is like most of you guys have been using apps like Paytm or GPay or your bank accounts. So all the transactions that is to and from your wallet is a ledger. Getting it? So this is what ledger is. Then we have distributed. So I'm sure most of you have been using Google Docs or Google Sheets, or any of such applications. Like the presentation that we are seeing currently is made on Google Slides. So in Google Slides, you can see that whatever information you have, you can just share it with the relevant person, and they can see your changes real time, which means your data is distributed to people whom you have shared your data. This means that your data is being visible to a lot of people, and all of them have a copy with them. So if your system breaks down, there is someone else who has the data there. So the data is distributed among a lot of people. That is what distributed is. And immutable in simple English means something that cannot be tampered, something that cannot be changed. So if we combine these three terms, immutable distributed ledger, as in a data which cannot be tampered and is available or accessible to all the members or specific members, and this data is nothing but series of transactions. This is exactly what blockchain is. So it's not anything advanced or so. It's just these 3 words: immutable distributed ledger. So in blockchain, you might have heard about Bitcoin, you might have heard about Ethereum. So these are some of the cryptocurrencies, or and you might be understanding here Indians, like India mein to cryptocurrency is banned. So blockchain is also banned. So we should not learn about blockchain. So it's not the case, wherein cryptocurrency ban was there. It's it was not even a ban. It was just a guidelines being issued by the Reserve Bank of India. And if we talk about the usage of cryptocurrencies in India, it's actually being promoted by a lot of government activities or a lot of government organizations. We have seen various state governments building a lot of applications in the field of land registry, in the field of vehicle registry, supply chain, and these areas. So blockchain as a technology is actually being used in India, wherein we have a lot of banks, a lot of governments actually testing it out on what how their organization can get benefit out of this particular technology. So blockchain is something being used, and in terms of Bitcoin and Ethereum is something which is related to a cryptocurrency. So Bitcoin, so if we talk about the history of blockchain, it started back in 2009. wherein the first public blockchain which was launched was Bitcoin, and it was launched by a person or a group of organization called Satoshi Nakamoto. We still don't know who he is, and once we had the Bitcoin blockchain set up, and then blockchain started gaining popularity in like 2010, 11, 12 around. 2014 was the year when we saw Ethereum as a new blockchain coming up. So these are some of the common. So these are the two major blockchains which are very common and which is most accepted across the globe. And people actually refer to these blockchain and build applications on these blockchains. So in this webinar, we'll understand basically about what Ethereum is, what Bitcoin is, and how can we set up a node in a similar blockchain, which is a fork of Ethereum called Zinfin blockchain or an XDC blockchain. So let me just see if there are any questions so far. Is my voice better now? I see there are a lot of comments saying the voice is not clear. Is it better now? Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Thanks for responding. So yeah, so we'll just start with it and we'll understand. So now once we have a clarity of what exactly blockchain is, how things started, and it's actually being used in India and being accepted by the government organizations. So let's just quickly understand on what exactly some of the consensus mechanisms are and what is being used. So as I said just now, wherein I mentioned about Bitcoin blockchain, Ethereum blockchain. So these blockchain, so the best thing about blockchain is there can be a lot of people that are connected to a particular network. So once they are in network, and so to come to any decision, they need to do a voting. For example, if we consider the scenario of Indian elections, so we do also have voting, wherein if 51% of the votes is being given to a party, that means if a party has the majority, they can form up a government. Similarly, here in blockchain, if a particular decision has 51% or X percent, which was decided, and if they have the majority, then they can actually pass that decision. So getting into this decision and getting the majority process is called consensus. So there are a lot of type of consensus. There is proof of work, which is a very popular consensus, and now the second consensus which is gaining a lot of popularity is proof of stake. So the difference is in proof of work, there is kind of a puzzle that needs to be solved. The first person who does that is getting rewards. Clear? So when he is getting rewards, so when the term reward is being introduced, a lot of people are there who want to actually avail this benefit, and since a lot of people want to become the people who can get the rewards, so there's a race for that, and whosoever solves that puzzle first will get the reward. So in order to solve the puzzle first, you need to have enough computation power, because this puzzle is nothing but a mathematical puzzle. So you need to just solve the mathematical puzzle. So once you do that, you will have to put in a lot of energy. So when a lot of energy is being put, this particular method is not eco-friendly anymore, since a lot of energy is being used. Hence, like we say that Bitcoin blockchain is consuming 10% of the world's electricity and so on. So this is something that was raising concern, and hence another consensus mechanism called proof of stake was being introduced. And with that, it actually solves the particular problem of energy. And today, the blockchain that we are going to talk about, it also is a more sophisticated way of proof of stake, that uses Zinfin delegated proof of stake as a consensus mechanism. So these are just the terms that I have been putting on top, like as an overview, before we start delving into the actual complexities of what exactly blockchain is and how we can set up a node. So this was just a brief understanding of, or a brief introduction about what exactly blockchain is, what are the some very important terms in a very layman language. So yeah, I'll just see if there are any questions. Yeah, I see there are a lot of questions, and I see Murli been asking question. Can you show blockchain architecture? Yes, Murli, if time permits, I'll try and show an Ethereum architecture, which is a blockchain architecture, but specifically to Ethereum. I'll try and show you an Ethereum architecture. Okay, there's an interesting question by Rupesh. What is blockchain? If this technology is so complex, why call it blockchain? At its most basic level, blockchain is literally just a chain of blocks, but not in this traditional word. No, it's actually chain of blocks, Rupesh. So, like, let's just step back before this webinar starts. Actually, on the topic. So, every block contains series of transactions. Transactions are nothing but to and from, like from a particular wallet, which is kind of a ledger. So every block consists a set of transactions. Each transaction is compiled and put into a block. So this is done in such a way that the block is linked to its previous block, and this block is linked to its further previous block. So now we see that there is a chaining of blocks, and these blocks are nothing but the transactions. So in simple way, this is what blockchain is. Wherein when I've mentioned about immutable distributed ledger, so once there is a chaining of blocks, it becomes immutable, because you cannot just change this one block. You have to change all the blocks that are behind this particular block. And then once I say a particular block or a ledger is nothing but the transactions which is present in this block. So this is exactly what blockchain is. It's nothing complex, and this exactly means, if you break the term blockchain, chain of blocks. Okay, there's another question. Can you explain in short proof of work and proof of stake? Yeah. So I just did that. So proof of work is basically a consensus mechanism that uses energy, or that uses electricity for people to get votes, for people to agree on a decision. Whereas in proof of stake, you don't have to put in your energy, you just have to put some money, and claiming on that money, you bet that this transaction is correct or wrong. If that bet is right, then you get a reward. If that bet is wrong, you have to pay for it. And the benefit for this is there's a slashing kind of mechanism, wherein if you are malicious and if you want wrong transactions to be enforced, your funds can be slashed. So there's always a risk for a person in proof of stake, and a reward as well. So risk is, if you are supporting malicious activities, you can lose your funds. Hence, people don't want to lose their funds, and they support positive activities. So in a nutshell, this is what proof of work and proof of stake is. If you want to understand more of it, you can just watch some of my previous webinars wherein I've covered a lot about this. And yeah, so another interesting question by Rahul: is it only for finance persons? No, Rahul. Finance is just one application. There are a lot many applications. As I was mentioning, there was land registry, there was vehicle registry, there was supply chain, and lot of applications. I would highly recommend you all to just go to any of my previous webinars, to just go on Zubi's channel, and there are lots and lots of webinars on these, on and helping you understand what exactly blockchain is, writing a very basic smart contract, understanding what token burning is. You can just go there, understand like what are the different types of blockchain, what are the use cases of blockchain, and lot many other things. So I think, yeah, we are short of time, and I'll continue with what we are set to discuss today on how we can set up a node on blockchain. So yeah, let's just take things further. So when we say we want to set a node on blockchain, so let's step back and understand what exactly is a node. Is it the language Node.js, or is it something else that, what exactly is a node? So I would say node is nothing but basically a device that contains full copy of the transaction history of blockchain. So node is like it's just yeah, the presentation is getting loaded. Great, yeah. So node is nothing but a server or a device that is being connected, and it's kind of a software application. So if I talk about the technical definition of it, the node is a client and a server kept in one software application. It can either run as both or one can be disabled. So like a node is basically both client and a server. So what do we mean by this? So like in a simple language, node is your laptop. Your laptop both has a visual part wherein the client side where you interact with it, and the server side or a processor side that it has inside it. So node is nothing but a computer that is being connected to any network. If any device is connected to a network that can act as client and server or anyone, is kind of a node. So what are the features that is being provided by a node? The node provides all necessary features that support mining and synchronizing the blocks and sending the transactions. So like if I want to help you understand how exactly blockchain works, so let's just take a quick example here. Yeah. So let's say like this is a mining pool, and like this is a transaction pool. My apologies. So here we have all of the transactions that is coming in. Right now, once you have a lot of transactions coming in, you will have people who you want to verify the transactions, who you want to add these transactions into the blocks. The people who do this are called as miners. So what does miner do? Miner basically picks transactions from the transaction pool. They check if this transaction is correct, if this transaction is correct, if this transaction is correct. How do they check it? Because they have the previous records. With previous records, they know that this particular address has this balance. And let's say if Punit rupees, he can only do transactions less than 50. So if I'm doing a transaction of rupees 10, then my new balance should be 40. If it is not 40 and 50 again, then there's an discrepancy. So this is basically what the job of a miner is, wherein they verify the transactions. So once the transactions is being verified, so I mentioned you about distributed. So distributed, once the transactions are being verified and added to the block, this particular block is broadcasted to everyone in the network. So everyone in the network now knows, okay, yeah, there's a new block that has been added into the blockchain. Let's just see what the details are. So they'll just get the block, and once they have the block, they'll see, okay, these are the transactions that are there in this block. Let me just verify it with my ledger. Okay, this is correct, this is correct, this is correct. They say a confirmation. So once a majority says confirmation, that block is finally being added into the blockchain. Getting it? So this is how the things happen. So the node can actually provide the necessary features like support mining, synchronizing the blocks, sending transactions, etc. So once you install the node, it will look for other nodes. So why will it look for other nodes? Basically to understand that, okay, there are these many nodes and that node has broadcasted. So for him to broadcast, I need to know him, right? Otherwise, how will I know that someone is sending a broadcast? Like for you to come to this webinar, you had to know about this webinar. You might have heard it somewhere. So similarly, the nodes who are there in the blockchain, they see like, okay, who all are there in the blockchain. So how do they do that? They first check these neighbors, then neighbors, then the neighbors. And similarly, they find all the nodes in the blockchain that are being connected. So once they have the list of all the nodes that are there in the blockchain, they get to know who is the one that is broadcasting. So if they see that that is broadcasting, they just take it and they add it to their ledger. Getting it? So once you install the node, it will look for other nodes to connect and download the latest state of the blockchain. So by downloading the latest state of the blockchain, I'll keep myself updated. Otherwise, the records that I will have is kind of a previous record, is not an updated record. So without the updated records, my information is not updated. So I cannot, I cannot claim that what I'm doing is correct. So for me to be able to verify the transactions, I need to be always updated. Getting this point? So this is exactly what node is. So let's just take it ahead. So what are the types of nodes? So nodes majorly are of two types: full node, lightweight nodes. So like we'll understand what exactly full node is and what light node is, but let's just understand the types first. So full nodes can also be called into two further types called pruned nodes and archival nodes. Archival nodes can have lot many categories like master nodes, mining nodes, staking nodes, authority nodes, etc. So let's take this one by one. Let's understand what exactly a full node is. So full node is basically you would require a full node if you want to mine the transactions, because full node keeps a history of all the ledger starting from when the blockchain started. So they'll see, okay, these are the things that are verified, and here I am. I need to be updated with all of the information that has happened in the past, and here I am finally. And like it has the detailed transactions history of every further blocks. Whereas in light nodes, you don't need to have the transactions. So blockchain uses a major, like we say blockchain is secure. Why do we say that? Because blockchain uses cryptography techniques. So with cryptography techniques, we have hashing. So hashing is basically like Puneet. If I write Puneet and like it can be get hashed, like when we hash the word Puneet, depending on what type of hashing algorithm it is, I get a string. That string is basically what Puneet is. If I change Puneet by Puneet A or Puneet 1 or Puneet 2, the entire string will change. So with this, we will not exactly store what is there as a data. We will just hash it and store something else. And this something else can be verified. This something else can be seen whether it is tampered or not, or whether it is, someone has actually edited this particular data or not. We can actually verify that. So with lightweight nodes, what we do is we have a lot of transactions. Once we have these transactions, we just take a hash of all of the transactions. This hash is called block header. So block header, you can just assume that it's just summary of the block. So in lightweight nodes, you don't have the detail of every block. You just have the summary of the block, which is a block header. So in lightweight nodes, you'll have this summary of all the future block or all the previous blocks. You won't have the entire details. So when you only have the summary, your data would be less. Hence, it is called a light node block. Getting it? So this is the major difference between a full node and a light node. So let's just understand what exactly are the differences between master node, mining node, and stuff. So like I'll just help you understand some basic and some most important functionalities of a node. So what is mining node? Mining node can make new blocks. They cannot send new transactions. They cannot know the balance of their own wallet, and they don't know all the transactions. Whereas full nodes cannot make new blocks, but they can send new transactions. They can know the balance of their wallet, and they can know all the transactions. This is what I was saying just now. Full node is something that has all the data. Light node cannot make new blocks and doesn't know all the transactions. What they know is basically they can just send transactions and they can see their wallet. So they can see the balance of their wallet. And there's another kind of a node called web node, and like this is using third-party services to see the new transactions or know the balance of their wallet. So whenever you will be creating any kind of application which requires a web support, you would actually be creating a web node. So applications like Explorer, when you will see the data of a particular blockchain, like what's happening there. So that use web nodes. These are the major, most important are full nodes and light nodes. The major difference between full nodes and light nodes is full nodes knows all the transactions, whereas light nodes doesn't know all the transactions. full node is something that stores the full blockchain data available on the disk and can serve the network with any data and any request. So if anyone wants to know what is the balance of Aniket, so full node has like Aniket has this address has this balance. They can reply. Full node can receive new transaction and block while participating in a block validation. Full node verifies all blocks and states because they have to keep their ledger updated, and to keep the ledger updated, they have to verify the transactions. They store the recent state only for most efficient initial sync. So, like we have just discussed that whenever we want to set a node on the blockchain, we sync our data. We sync like what all has happened in the blockchain. We just keep ourselves updated. So full node has a functionality wherein you can just see the most recent state for an efficient initial sync. So with that, you can just have all the previous data and you can actually sync yourself very fast. All state can be derived from a full node. Once fully synced, stores all state moving forward, similar to archive nodes. So basically, like once you have all the nodes, once a full node can have all the information related to a blockchain. So if you want to have the entire information of an Ethereum network or something, you would want to create a full node. What is the limitation of it? It would require space, because if you want the data of all the transactions from 2014 or from the date when the blockchain started, or that particular blockchain net started till today, you need to have that space, you need to have that disk space to keep all the data within you. So this is just the limitation of full node, wherein it requires space requirements. It requires like around GBs or TBs of data. So before moving, let's just see if there are any questions. Just 1 minute, guys. Yeah, my laptop has facing some issues. Just 2 minutes. I'm unable to see the screen wherein you're posting your questions. So I'm just waiting for that. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I can see your screen now. Yeah, okay. So I see there are questions. Like there is a question by Janani Nandan. How do they validate the transaction in blockchain? So guys, like when you want to validate the transaction, so you basically check the previous ledger of it. So with the previous ledger, you will understand like what was the balance of a particular address, and how you can how you can check the previous transactions that have been done from a particular wallet, if the balance is sufficient or not to do the transaction. So these are the ways that you can check and validate the transaction. Somnath is asking question, Coinbase website is an example of blockchain. No, Somnath, Coinbase is not an example of blockchain. Coinbase is just using blockchain, and is just is an application on blockchain. So they just the data from the blockchain and show it to you. They don't run their own blockchain network. They don't maintain any of those things. They just do the API calls to fetch the data from the blockchain, and they just show it on a particular portal. So they show you about the different prices, that is different prices of a cryptocurrency, and they can do transactions. So whenever you do any transaction, they create a request of a transaction on the blockchain. Currently, all the transactions are performed based on blockchain. Sorry, Surya, I didn't get your question. So, like the transactions are performed by individuals, like the same transactions that you perform in the in your bank accounts. If you want to send a particular amount of money from your account to someone else's account, that is a transaction, and anyone can do it. So there's a question like, what are the applications of blockchain? There are a lot of applications of blockchain. I would recommend you to just watch my previous webinars for the same. Okay, what is API? API is basically like an app. It's just a call that happens to the network. So basically, like API is just a request being made by your application to someone else's application to fetch data out of it. So guys, stay tuned. Like you would be getting the certificates for this particular webinar. You would actually be understanding on how exactly you can host a master node, for how you can actually host a node on a blockchain, and you will also understand the concepts of blockchain now. So let's just take this ahead. So the comparison chart. So like how do you understand on whether Google node should you host? Should you host a Bitcoin node or an Ethereum node or the XDC node, which is a Zenfin node? So maximum supply in the case of XDC is 37.5 billion. So these are the number of tokens of XDC, that is the max cap. In Bitcoin it's 21 million, and in Ethereum it's 100 million approx. The algorithm here is basically the consensus algorithm. So here in Bitcoin we have the proof of work. In proof of work, which is powered by or backed by an EVM. EVM is an Ethereum virtual machine. So guys, like these are some of the important terms. So you should actually remember it, because while claiming your certificate, you might need this. So EVM is basically Ethereum virtual machine, and in Zenfin the algorithm is Zenfin delegate proof of stake. Here the block interval is 2 seconds. This means like the block gets added after every 2 seconds, whereas in Bitcoin and in Ethereum it was 10 minutes and 15 seconds respectively. So these are some of the the basic transactions. So like this is another important comparison, wherein in XDC we have 2000 plus transactions per second. Like XDC blockchain can support up to 2000 transactions per second, whereas Bitcoins can support 9 transactions per second, and in case of Ethereum it's around 15 transactions per second, which is TPS. So now, since we have understood about what exactly a full node is and what exactly light node is, let's understand what master node is. So master node is actually beneficial for the network, and it also rewards you. It's a great source of a passive income, and it's not too expensive to maintain. The only cons, or the misunderstandings of master node is, people think that in order to host a master node you would require a huge amount of investment, but this is not the case. Master node doesn't require an large initial investment, and that process is very easy. So let's understand how exactly, like what exactly happens when I host a node on the any blockchain network. The first step is, once the node starts running, it checks the last connected IP addresses to sync with them. So when I did say the node finds the other nodes who are broadcasting, or the other nodes that are in the network. So how does it do that? It checks the list of IP addresses. It checks the list of internet protocol addresses that were connected to the network. So to understand, okay, there were around 10 lakh different IP addresses. So this means there were 10 lakh nodes connected. And once you have IP address, you can get and post a request for in that particular IP address for them to connect with you. Getting it? So it's kind of a basic of computer networks, wherein once you have the IP address, you can send them a request for them to connect with you. So this list, how do you get this list? This list is broadcasted with the last block. So like with every particular block, you will have the list broadcasted, like what were the last connected IP addresses in this particular block. So with this, you'll also understand. So let me just give you a visual representation of this. Let's just go to our network. Meanwhile, it loads, like we can just move ahead. So if no list is saved, the node will ping well-known list of IPs. So even that there can be a case like, okay, like we have the list of IP addresses, but here there are no IP addresses at all. If a blockchain is starting at the very first time, so whenever blockchain is being started, they will have a list of pre-known IP addresses. This is for the initial nodes or for the nodes who cannot find any list to connect with these nodes, because these are the nodes that will always keep on running. So, or these are the nodes which are, like kind of well known or being put up by the organization who have set up the blockchain network itself. So they can just connect with that node and they can fetch all of the information and sync themselves with that particular node. So the last step here is seeking a node in the network is DNS seeding. So the last step is basically like when I'm connecting a node on a particular network, I will like seed DNS. I will you might have used the torrent application. So what it does, it basically have a lot of seeds. So that this is exactly what is happening here. So here, whenever you are adding yourself as a node on a particular network, it starts seeding the DNS. So remember guys, it's DNS, not the DNA. DNS is basically your, the domain name servers, I think. Yeah. Let's just go to the network. So DNS is basically domain name system. So it has like the records, all the records, A records, C name records, everything. So it basically the last step is seeding the DNS. It's taking time to load, so we'll wait. Let's just move ahead with now. So what are the different ways to set up a node? So I can either set up a node using get, which is a command line interface to connect to any blockchain. I can also use Docker. So Docker is something, like as it has the like Docker images being set up, and you can just download that image on your machine and set up the network. Another application or way to set up is a one-click installer. So most of the blockchain now have one-click installer where you just have to click once, they'll download an executable file, and once you run that executable file, you will actually have your node being set up. And the traditional way or to do it yourself way is GitHub clone, wherein you can clone the source code of the GitHub of if the source is open source. And once you have cloned it, you can just use the setup or the setup guidelines to set up your own network. It's still getting load. Okay. So, and what are the hardware options to host a node? Since I said like your node is basically a kind of your laptop that you connect with your network, so you need to have any hardware option for it. So the hardware options can be the Avado DApp node. This is kind of an hardware which is available in the market. You can purchase it. There is a Raspberry Pi, there is a Nano PC, there is an ETH on ARM. Otherwise, you can also host it on clouds. You can have your virtual private servers, which is VPS, or you can get a server from Amazon Web Services or DigitalOcean or in stock or any other people who are offering the servers. So now let's understand what exactly are the requirements to become an XDC master node, as in to become a node in this Zenfin blockchain. So you can either have your operating system as Windows, CentOS, Red Hat, or the Linux or the Ubuntu. So for the development, you can have Windows or Linux distributions. Linux distributions like the variations of Linux, like Ubuntu, Kali, uh, Debian, and etc. You need to have a 64-bit CPU, and it should have 2 plus cores. The minimum space is 300 GB SSD recommended. So this is if you want to become a full node, you must have 300 GB of minimum data, and the RAM requirement is 12 GB. So this is only required if you want to become a very specific kind of a full node, which is a master node. So if you want to become a master node, these are the specifications being recommended to you for you to have a seamless experience of a master node. So now let's understand or get on a demo to or understanding about how exactly we can set up an XDC master node. So is there any questions before it? Okay, there's a question on how many nodes are we using in blockchain. So Lakshmi Narayana, like there can be lot and lots of nodes. To give you an example, Bitcoin blockchain and Ethereum blockchain have millions of nodes. Millions of nodes being connected to any network. There is no limitation on how many nodes can be connected to a network. If the network is public or if you have the access to connect to a network, you can connect it very easily. Yes, Vinny. Two core for a master node. Yes. Can we host it on Google Colab? I'm not sure, Krishna, about it. I haven't checked it personally. I have worked with hosting the node on DigitalOcean, hosting the node on Amazon Web Services, and also on getting the virtual private servers of our own and setting up there. So I haven't used Google Colab, to be honest. Are there any like Shubham is asking a question? Are there any prerequisites of blockchain, and do I need to know CCNA, CCNA, or CCNA? No, any of these. Only prerequisite to understand a blockchain, if you want to learn applications of it, is to understand the basic application, like any language, which can be a Python or a JavaScript, which is being widely used now. If you want to work on the architecture of blockchain, like if you want to build an entire blockchain from scratch or to make any changes to the existing blockchain, you can learn Golang. So Golang, which is a language by Google, so that language is actually being used by most of the blockchains. Why mostly Node is used? Okay, so there's a great question. Like, what about blockchain in mobiles? So, Janat, like blockchain in mobiles can only. So, we have seen Samsung launching blockchain phones, HTC launching blockchain phones. So, mostly they are kind of a light nodes. You cannot have a full node being set up on a uh, been set up as you cannot have a full you cannot have use your mobiles to set up as a full node on to set up as a full node on any network. What you can do is you can connect as a light node. So people who are having 8 GB of RAM, you can definitely connect on any network as a node. You can have your private network being running. So we can have another session of webinar wherein I can help you understand how you can create a private network of your own, and then you can understand on how to set up a private network and interact the applications. What is XDC? XDC is basically a token of Zenfin. Is Python language comfortable for blockchain? Yes, Kinari. So, like very popular application, like very popular blockchain that is being used for developing applications is Ethereum, and Ethereum does support Python, wherein they have created libraries called Web3.py. Now they have come up with a language for smart contracts, which is very similar to Python, called Viper. So yes, uh, you can actually use Python for developing applications on blockchain. So there's a question: blockchain are used in IoT? Yes, Dhyaneshwar. So blockchain is something. So blockchain consists of transactions and data, which I am repeating for long now. So in order to get this data, IoT can act as sensors or devices that can provide you these data. So once you have this data, you can use analytics and AI techniques to filter this data and get the data, get the filtered data, and you can put this data on blockchain. So blockchain is just the backline technology. It uses Internet of Things, it uses AI, and these three combo like is actually uh, will actually create a meaningful application. Okay, what are the research areas in blockchain? What are the challenges? How is it related to cloud computing? So, Rahul, there are a lot of research area in blockchain. I would recommend you to just go to this particular link. I'll just share the link here. So, if you want to have anything, if you want to have any information related to the research topics on Ethereum, you can just go to this particular link. Yes, Vineet, we can get the PPT link. The duration of this webinar is like more 5 minutes, and then we'll be done with it. So like this is the link that you can go, it research basically, wherein you can find all the research topics related to Ethereum on this particular link. So now let's just understand on how exactly we can set up a masternode. So for this, we'll just go through this very quick video. Yeah, is it visible? Okay, yeah, it is. So through this video, we'll basically understand on how we can set up a masternode on Zenfin blockchain. So what we did basically here is we just went to this particular website called zenfin.org/setupmasternode.php. Once you're there, you'll find this. Let's move it back. You'll find this particular page, and if you just scroll down on this page, you'll find the one-click installer. So here we have the demo for Windows, and basically you just have to click the download. There's a file that's being downloaded. It is an executable file. Once you have this executable file being running, so it will ask you for the permissions, and you just have to allow it. So once you have done that, the application will start getting installed. And once we have the application installed, so we just have to agree on the terms and conditions. We have to set up the the destination folder basically. And so if we just move back, so here stands the space required is around 145 MB. So this is like the minimum space required. uh, like during this particular demo, the space can actually vary, and you will see the application being installed. So this would take like around 3 to 4 minutes of yours depending on the net speed. And with this, like, you don't have to do anything. Within one click, you have actually set up a node on the Zenfin blockchain. So you just have to open this application. Once you open this application, like, this will configure, and this will connect with the blocks automatically. And yeah, this takes some time. And then this gets to know about how many people are there in this network, when it was last sent, and all of these details. So here you'll also find the accounts as in like the account that has the balances. So let's just understand what happens next. So I just go to develop, and in this network, so we have basically the main network and the Apple network. So whenever you are developing any applications, you want to test things out. If you want to test things out, you want to be in a developer mode or in a test environment mode. So this is how, this is basically Apothem network is the test network of Zenfin. So for the case of, sorry, so for the demo of this webinar and for you to develop your applications, you can use the test network for it. So we'll just go to the test network. We have moved to the test network. And now see a particular link for network, like how many nodes are being there. So we'll have the list of all the nodes. We'll see that when was the last cell, how many blocks are there, and what is their uptime. So now, since we have just set up the node, we have 1800. So we have just synced 1800 blocks, but the total number of blocks is more than 15 lakhs. So so this particular block will quickly. So we just have 1800, and it will start syncing it, to keep it updated. So what we'll do is, like, to create an account, we'll just go to the Apple.network, which is the test network, and then we'll create a new wallet. So you can create a new wallet by either which is a mnemonic phrase, or by keystore file. So mnemonic phrase is basically like around 8 to 9 words, which are being in a particular order. And to access your wallet, you need to put that 9 words in the same order. Otherwise, the most recommended way is to keep the keystore file. So the keys, once you do the keystore file, you just have to create a password. Make sure to keep the keystore file very safe. If you lose this file, you will actually lose the data. You won't be able to access your wallet anymore. So the step is, don't lose it, don't share it, and make a backup of the keystore file that you're keeping it. So once it's done, I'll just download the keystore file. I've downloaded the keystore, and then I'll just access my wallet successfully. So once I want to access my wallet, I'll have 3 options. Either I can access it by keystore, I can access it by mnemonic, or a private. So let's just access it by keystore. I'll click on it. I'll click on continue. What I'll have to do is, basically I'll have to give them a file. So this is kind of a file that has been used. You see there is a UTC kind of file. So this file is something called a keystore file, and using this file, I can access. I have to enter my same password. Make sure that you are setting up a strong password, and through this I am accessing the wallet. So now I can access the wallet where the address is an XDC address and the balance is 0. For me to host a Zenfin masternode, I need to have 10 million XDC. You don't have to buy it if you're doing it for development purpose. What you can do is, you can just copy this address from here. You can just called network/get test XDC. Here you just have to place the, or you have to copy the address, and you have to click on get 10,000 get XDC. Now once you go back and once you refresh it, you will see that you already have 10 XDC. This balance is on your test net. So the balance is not on the live network. This is on the test network, wherein you will have enough balance to host a master node. So once I have this network, so what I can do, I can just so once I have this wallet, I can download the private key of my wallet. So in order to do that, I'll just click here, and then I'll have my private key. I'll just save this private key for my reference, and I'll log the Apothem network. I'll put this private key to log in, and then I'll save it. So once I've done it. So this will bring all of my information. This will bring, like, this is my XDC address, and this is the balance at this XDC, and it will also bring whether this master is KYC or not. So basically, in order to become a master on Zenfin, you have to do a KYC. So for KYC, you can use any of this authorized documents. You can just choose a file and put it there, and you would become a node, a very specific kind of a node called master node on the blockchain. So this is guys like basic, set up a node on the Zenfin blockchain. How you can set up a master node? It's very easy. You just have to download and like click on the next, and then things are pretty intuitive. After that, you can like watch the recording of this webinar. If you feel any difficulty, feel free to join on the Telegram to ask any questions. Anyone from the team would be happy to answer your questions. So now the time comes for the certificate. So I'll also share this presentation with you all over the Telegram group, and then you can just go there and get an access to this entire presentation. So you can use Zubi_IO to go to join our Telegram group. So for the guys who are actually interested to become a node on Ethereum blockchain, we can host next set of webinar. We are very short of time, wherein I can understand how you can become a node using the Get client, and then how you can actually start mining using your command, how you can create a smart contract, how you can interact with your smart contract. And we are also soon launching course on blockchain, where CTO and Zubi, Nishant, and I and a few of our colleagues would be taking up a course along with the industry leaders for you to understand how you can create applications on top of any blockchain network. So like this particular webinar was focused on Zenfin's network, how you can actually become a masternode on Zenfin. But for you to understand how you can start creating applications on Ethereum network or any network using the Get, using Truffle, using right smart contract, interacting with your web application, you can we can have another set of webinar depending on your preference for it. So for you to now get certificates, you just have to do a quick short job. So this would you just have to go to ss.zubi.io, ASSESS.zubi.io. You can find the link of it in the description of this YouTube video. So once you go there, you just have to test your skills. So once you are here, you will find blockchain webinar. You will find a test for blockchain webinar. You have to select it and you have to proceed. So you'll have to like log in. Let me just log in my account. Great. So I have logged in. So if you're a new user, you can just sign up yourself. So you just have to click on the blockchain webinar and then proceed. So this quiz is 15 minutes long. You can take this quiz for 3 times. After taking this quiz, if you pass with 25% of the marks, you would be getting a certificate. So for you to start the quiz, you have to agree to the terms and conditions mentioned, and then you have to start the quiz. So once you start the quiz, this is kind of a question that you would be getting. You would be getting 15 questions, and like these are very short questions which can be answered very easily in 15 minutes. So you can just take this. So if by any chance your quiz gets closed in between of your assessment, please wait for 15 to 20 minutes before starting again. So just wait for 15 to 20 minutes and then take the test again. You would be able to take it. If you're able to pass this particular test within, with a 25% marks, then you would be getting your certificate. You can download the certificate as a JPG, PDF, or a JSON, and you can upload it on any of these. We would highly recommend you to upload it because you can actually showcase your skill in blockchain. Like you have understood a very basic concept in blockchain, and you can showcase your skills there. So this is how. So like let's say I just answer this next. So like this is how you have to put in next. Once you have answered 25% of the questions correctly, you would be able to get a certificate. So that's all, guys. So if you have any questions, please feel free to join the Telegram group and ask your questions there. Our team would be happy to answer your questions. I hope this webinar had helped you understand a bit of blockchain concepts. Would highly recommend you to watch the previous webinars for you to connect with the terms, for you to understand like quite detailed on blockchain. And then very soon we would be hosting a webinar on how you can set your own private blockchain network and how you can set up a lot of nodes on the network. So that's all, guys, from my side. Thank you for joining, and hope to see you soon again. Thank you.